Hello, my name is Jenna Richardson, and I am currently in my final year of nursing school at West Coast University in Dallas. I will be graduating in January 2017 and can't wait to start the next chapter of my nursing career. I have been an LVN for the last 6 years. For about 4.5 years, I worked in California, and that's where I'm originally from. And out there, I worked in a skilled nursing and rehab center. And it was mainly with geriatrics that I worked. We'd have occasional young patients, but mainly the geriatrics. It was very enjoyable, and I definitely learned a lot from them. But now that I'm in Texas, I work at an urgent care, and I also do in-home case management for Humana patients. Once I graduate, my plan is to hopefully move back to California, and I would like to actually work in pediatrics. I feel like that is where my heart truly lies, but upon graduation, I think I'll take any job I can get, and I won't be too picky. The article I chose to review was titled Night Work and the Risk of Cancer Among Men. This article was published in October of 2012 in the American Journal of Epidemiology. It was written by Mary Elise Parent, Miriam Elzine, Marie-Claude Rousseau, Javier Pintos, and Jack Simitiski. It was the reason I chose to review this article was because since I have been a nurse, I have had the privilege, if you could call it that, to work the night shift. I actually worked the night shift for my first year of nursing, and it was probably the worst year of my life. I did not feel human. I never slept. I would go 4 days straight without any sleep, and then maybe I would catch 16 hours straight of sleep. My body just could never adjust to those hours, and I tried everything to help me. I was physically ill while working the night shift. I would get hot flashes. I'd be freezing cold. My eating pattern was obviously very off, and I don't think I ate healthy by any means. Eating at 3 in the morning is not typical of anyone. And I would physically be sick and actually throw up during those night shifts. So luckily, after a year, I had the honor to switch to day shift, and I happily took it and got my life back. But since I did work that night shift, I've always been curious to see what kind of effects night shift can actually have on your body. I knew that there had to be some sort of effects, but I wasn't sure exactly what it was. So I thought this article just definitely caught my attention. This article was a research study that was carried out actually in Canada over 6 years. It started in 1979 and it ended in 1985. Overall, it took a total of 4,576 eligible cancer patients, and actually 3,137 of them were interviewed. It was a case-controlled study where they looked at job history and the work hours, and the patients that they chose were already diagnosed with cancer. And like I said, they specifically chose men for this work. The overall results suggested that night shift workers could be at higher risk for certain types of cancer. The thought behind this research was that the hypothesis was that night shift work causes an increase in cancer. And they believe this is because the break in the circadian rhythm. Because your body isn't going into that circadian rhythm cycle, it's not producing melatonin, which they feel is what is causing the increased cancer risk. The major technique they used in this study was actually face-to-face interviews, and it was done by the same interviewer, so there was no biases or anything like that in the research article. The interviewers discussed the socio-demographic and lifestyle characteristics and then asked less structured questions about past job descriptions. Normally, they tried to interview the patients, but if the patients weren't capable of answering their questions, they referred to loved ones. The patients did range in age during this study from the ages of 35 to 70 years old. And it was the interviewer's job to find out about past work history and hours that were actually worked during those working years. The research did have strengths and weaknesses. One of the strengths is that it allowed them to present evidence regarding a large number of cancer sites to compare risk across sites within common study base using a common methodology. Another strength is that it provided additional information to area of research that is considered very limited and inconsistent. With this, it shows that the study wasn't done for no reason. They may not have gotten the results that they expected, but it did have some sort of benefit. The biggest limitation of this study is that it's very hard to factor in exactly if it's night shift alone that caused cancer or if there's something else that could have been it. Were the people working the night shift smokers? Were they maybe a radiologist or worked in the radiology department? Did they work at a refinery? Were they a firefighter? It's very hard to say, to pinpoint night shift alone as the main causing factor. And to be honest, I'm not sure if there could ever be a clear study that showed that it's night shift that causes these effects, because you have so many other outside factors that you have to be able to look at. The research article does have public health implications because there are tons of people that work night shifts, and with the way that we live our life in America and always on the go and things being open later and maybe things being open 24 hours, there's increasing night shift work. The Huffington Post shows that there's over 15 million Americans right now that work the night shift. It also, in that article, it mainly focused on women in that one, and it showed that women working the night shift for more than 6 years, 11% of them had a shortened lifespan. So that's definitely saying something. And it also showed that they have a greater risk for heart disease, cancer, and brain problems. There's no way that we can eliminate night shift altogether. I don't think in any country. You're always going to have healthcare settings. You're always going to have jobs that people have to be available at night. But I do feel that maybe we can limit ones that aren't necessary to kind of help increase people's overall health outcome later on in their life. The study did conclude that night shift may increase various types of cancer. So I would say that this only partially supported the hypothesis. And I say only partially because the numbers weren't that definitive. They weren't that much greater than what they had already known. So I think they'd have to go more into depth. The statistical significance that was noted that was for men who worked the night shift for 10 plus years. They had a higher incidence alone of prostate cancer, colon cancer, bladder cancer, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. At the end of the article, they did state that they feel that this was inconclusive as well, and that it only partially supported their hypothesis, and that they would like to do further research. As discussed earlier, it is very limited due to the fact that it's hard to pinpoint that night shift is the sole factor for the cancer. I do believe the article was informative, but to be 100% honest, I think that you have to really be into research to get everything they're fully talking about and grasp the concepts. They have a bunch of numbers on there listed and percentages, and you don't know really what those numbers and percentages mean. I'm not a huge fan of statistics. I took the class, but I couldn't tell you too many things from there. So the fact that it's so wordy with statistical numbers is a little bit difficult for me to comprehend. Overall, though, I did enjoy reading the article because it did prove that night shift does have an effect on our bodies overall. I'll probably never be able to fully avoid the night shift, especially once I'm a new grad again, but it's hopefully, if people working the night shift can get on a better schedule and know that there can be health effects later on in life, I think that that's an important thing to educate anyone about, starting at a young age when people decide what field they're going to go into and where they want to work and all of that kind of stuff. So once again, night shift definitely wouldn't be my first choice, but overall I thought it was a good article and it had some very good points in it, but I'd like to see what further research could say on even, looking more at women or both sexes and specifically, what jobs maybe. Maybe let's look at medical professions especially or exclusively and see, what their increased health risks are. Thank you for listening and I hope you enjoyed.